Hello and welcome to Financial Intelligence. In this video, I want to talk about the capitalization rate, also known as the cap rate. The cap rate is a metric used to indicate the rate of return that is expected to be generated on a real estate investment property. It helps investors to compare and contrast different investment options. The higher the cap rate, the higher the returns, and therefore the better the investment opportunity. In that sense, the cap rate is a very useful tool. However, there are many assumptions that go into calculating the cap rate, and that is where the cap rate gets tricky. The numbers can be easily fudged to mislead investors by reporting higher cap rates. In other words, higher returns on investments. Sellers and real estate agents who are trying to get you to buy a property have financial incentives to overstate the cap rates. In this video, I want to show you how cap rates can be manipulated to mislead investors and how you can avoid these traps. If you like the type of content that I provide, consider subscribing to this channel and give this video a thumbs up, and also hit the notification bell so that you won't miss any of my future videos. What is the cap rate? A property's capitalization rate, or cap rate, is essentially the real estate investment's return. The cap rate is determined by taking the property's net operating income and dividing it by the value of the asset. The net operating income is equal to the gross income less expenses. The gross income here is the term used to describe the total income generated from renting out the property. The expenses here are obviously the total costs associated with owning and operating the rental property. The cap rate is expressed as a percentage. Let's take a look at an example. Say you purchased a property for $200,000. You rented out the building for $1,000 per month. If the sum of total costs is $200 per month, your net operating income will be $1,000 minus $200, which is $800. Assuming that you have tenants all year round, for simplicity, your annualized net operating income is going to be the monthly $800 times 12, or $9.6 thousand. Therefore, the cap rate of this investment property is going to be $9.6 thousand divided by $200,000, or roughly 5%. You can easily see how cap rates can be manipulated, overstating the revenue numbers and or understating the expenses. Overstating the revenue. The first way that cap rates can be misrepresented is by overstating their revenue numbers. Obviously, the higher the rental income, the higher the net operating income of the investment is going to be. Therefore, when comparing cap rates, the first step is to validate the assumptions made when calculating the rental income of the property. You can do this by looking at the rental comps in the area using available online tools. When purchasing a property, you should make your offer contingent on the seller providing you with their tax return documents. The goal is to verify the rental income values and ensure that the seller did not overstate those numbers. You also need to take into account the vacancy rates of the property. Your rental property isn't going to have tenants all the time, so you need to take that into consideration when you're calculating the cap rates. Understating the expenses. As you know, there are many expenses associated with owning and operating a rental property. For example, you need to pay property taxes, you need to pay for regular maintenance and upkeep, as well as insurance. If you have hired a person to manage the property for you, you will have to pay property management fees. If you have taken out a loan to purchase the property, you will have to make the mortgage payments. As you can see, there are many different components that impact the total cost of owning and operating a rental property. As a result, there's a lot of wiggle room when calculating these expenses. I have seen many calculations when some of these cost components were completely omitted or were significantly understated. My recommendations. The cap rate is a fantastic measure to compare investment options. However, I would only use the numbers that I have personally calculated. I would not trust any cap rates until I have verified the assumptions. My first recommendation is that you should always take the cap rates that you see on the internet or you have been given with a grain of salt. In other words, keep in mind that these numbers are very sensitive to the assumptions that go into their calculations. Be aware that in many cases, sellers and agents have financial incentives to overstate these numbers to lure you into making mediocre real estate investments. My second recommendation is that when you are considering investing in rental properties, you should build a spreadsheet model yourself based on realistic assumptions. This way you can create a model that is consistent, and you can also analyze different scenarios by changing the parameters of your cap rate model. Having a spreadsheet model with your own parameters and assumptions will enable you to do an apples to apples comparison when evaluating multiple properties. I'm going to create another video with a sample spreadsheet that I have been using. It will provide you with a baseline model for calculating realistic cap rates. I hope that you liked this video. If you have any recommendation or suggestion, please add them in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel, and also hit the notification bell so that you won't miss any of my future videos. Thank you and take care.